Yesterday you were angry, maybe not at the horse, maybe not at anything nearby. Maybe it was a conversation that went badly, something someone said, something you couldn't shake on the drive over. By the time you got there, you'd moved on. You were fine. You walked in like normal. But here, what I need you to understand about that moment, and about every moment like it that came before. Your horse remembers, not in the way you'd expect. Not in some vague, hard-to-pin-down way. I mean this precisely. Scientifically, they stored a record of who you were in that moment. And right now, today, the way they're reading you is being cross-referenced against everything they already have on file. And the file goes back further than you think. There, as a term that behavioral scientists use for a specific type of memory horses have, and once I explain what it means, you're going to look back at a specific moment you had with your horse and understand it completely differently. I'll get there. But first, let me show you what this actually looks like from the horse's side. Here, something most people do know about how horse memory actually works, and it's different from ours in one really significant way. When you and I experience something unpleasant, we tend to process it, we think about it, talk it through, sometimes even rationalize it away. The memory softens, gets content. You can usually get to a point where it doesn't affect how you move through a room anymore. Horses don't have that mechanism. They can't contextualize, they can't tell themselves, well, that person was just having a bad day. There's no internal narrative that files things under not that serious. Whatever emotional imprint an experience leaves, that imprint stays exactly as sharp as the moment it was made. And here's the part that should make you stop. Researchers studying equine fear memory found that negative experiences in horses aren't just remembered, they often learned in a single exposure. One time, that's it. Single trial aversion learning. One experience. Permanently encoded. Now, think about that in the context of you. Not a trailer, not a frightening object. You, a person this horse sees almost every day. A person who sometimes arrives calm, sometimes arrives stressed, sometimes loses their temper for a moment, sometimes pushes too hard in training when they're frustrated about something else entirely. Every one of those moments was a data point. Every single one got filed. And your horse right now, today, is not just responding to who you are in this moment. They're responding to the accumulated record of every version of you they've ever encountered. So this is where it gets very specific. And where if you were skeptical about any of this, I think you stopped being skeptical. Researchers at the University of Rennes in France ran a long-term study on 23 horses. They trained these horses with a human handler over a series of sessions. Basic grooming, care instructions, movement commands, standard stuff. Then they separated the horses from the handler for up to 8 months. 8 months. When the handler came back, the horses remembered, not vaguely, specifically. The horses that had been trained with positive reinforcement showed the same affiliation behaviors they'd shown 8 months earlier. Sniffing, licking, staying close, they recognized not just the person, but the emotional quality of how that person had treated them, and they responded accordingly. That second part is the one that stopped me. Horses trained without positive reinforcement, meaning interactions that were harsher, more pressure-based, more frustration-driven, showed 4 to 6 times more negative behavior when that person came back. Not toward a stranger, toward the familiar person. 8 months later, they didn't forget. They didn't soften it with time. They came back to that relationship with a full emotional record of how it had felt. And they behaved exactly as that record told them to. Now here's what makes this feel personal. If you let it, you're not just a trainer to your horse. You're not just a rider. You're a recurring character in their life who brings a particular emotional climate with them every time they arrive. Some days that climate is warm and calm and predictable. Some days it carries tension they can't explain and didn't cause, and they remember all of it. In the same resolution, it happened. But here is the thing I didn't expect to find when I kept going with this, and it is the part that actually changes what you do about it. Because it's not just the negative stuff, they remember this clearly, and the way positive memory works in horses is genuinely strange. Here's what's interesting, and I think this is the part you actually need to hear. Because so far this video has basically been cataloging all the ways your horse remembers your worst moments and files them permanently. The same memory system works in both directions. Researchers from the University of Rennes also found that horses could recognize a familiar caretaker from a photograph alone after 6 months of no contact. Not from smell, not from movement, not from voice, just the face, flat, two-dimensional, on paper. 6 months later, and they showed a preference for that face over a stranger's, they remembered the person. And they remembered that the person was safe. 6 months, hairstyle changed, eyes covered, black and white. Didn't matter. They knew. So the memory that your horse has of you is UNT, just a catalog of bad moments to be cautious around. It's everything. Every patient session. Every time you showed up steady when you could have pushed harder. Every time you got off early because they were struggling. Every quiet morning that didn't ask anything of them. Every one of those is in there too, filed with the same sharpness. The question isn't whether your horse remembers you. The question is, when they look at the full record, what's the balance? And the harder question underneath that, does the balance you think is their match the one they actually have? I want to explain what's actually happening in the brain when this memory gets formed, because I think it helps make this less abstract. When a horse encounters something that triggers a fear or stress response, and that includes human behavior, not just objects or sounds, the information goes straight to a structure in the brain called the amygdala. You have one too. It's the brain's threat processing center. It works fast, faster than conscious thought, and here's the thing about the amygdala. When it encodes a memory, it uses stress hormones to do it. Cortisol, epinephrine, the same chemicals your body releases when you're frightened or angry. Those hormones don't just create the feeling, they strengthen the neural connection. They essentially burn the memory in, which is why fear-based memories in horses are so much more durable than ordinary ones. It's not a flaw in how they're built. It's the whole point. On the open plains, if something scared you once, you needed to remember it forever. Forgetting could kill you. So when your horse tenses up around something you did months ago, something you've long since moved past, something you might not even remember, they're not being stubborn. They're not being difficult. They're doing exactly what their brain was designed to do. They're keeping themselves safe from you. That's uncomfortable to sit with. I know, but I think it's important, because the alternative, not knowing this, means you keep showing up, being frustrated by what feels like irrational behavior and accidentally adding to the file in ways you don't intend. So here's the actual question. If you can't erase what's already in the file, and you can't, that research is pretty clear, then what do you actually do? Because there is an answer, and it's not what most people assume. The answer isn't to never have a bad day. That's not realistic, and honestly, your horse isn't expecting that. The answer is consistency, and not the kind of consistency people usually mean when they talk about horse training. Same routine, same commands, same schedule. I mean emotional consistency. Showing up as a recognizable version of yourself often enough that the pattern is clear. Because here's something the research on positive memory shows. Horses don't just remember individual moments, they remember patterns. They build what one researcher described as a concept of person, a working model of who you are as a recurring presence in their life. Not just what you did on a particular day, who you are, on average, over time. That model can change, slowly, with enough evidence, which means the file isn't closed. Every time you show up and don't push when you could have pushed, every time you notice they're having a hard day and you just stay quiet for a while, every calm, unremarkable arrival, every unhurried session that ends early, every one of those is a new data point going into the same file. You can't delete the old entries, but you can make the new ones so consistent, so steady, so clearly different from the moments you take back that when your horse cross-references the file next time you walk through the gate, the weight tips toward something else. Toward, this person is usually safe. Toward, I don't need to step back. We started with a pretty uncomfortable idea, that your horse remembers the emotional version of you that showed up yesterday, last week, months ago, and that memory doesn't soften the way ours does. It stays exactly as sharp as the moment it was made. That's real science, single trial aversion learning, the amygdala, stress hormones burning memories into neural pathways, not mysticism. Not horses are sensitive. Biology. But the same biology that makes the difficult memories durable makes the good ones durable too. Positive relationships preserved across 6 months of separation. Recognizing a face with the eyes covered in black and white in profile. The detail in what a horse holds onto about someone they trust, it's remarkable. So the question I'd leave you with isn't, what has your horse filed about you? You probably already have a feeling about that. The question is, what are you adding today? The next video in this series, I want to look at something that comes before any of this. Before the memory, before the facial recognition, before the emotional cross. There is a signal your horse picks up when you arrive that doesn't involve your face at all, doesn't involve your voice, doesn't involve anything you're consciously doing, and it shapes everything that follows. I looked into the research on it, and it's genuinely strange. I'll see you there.